Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In Gaza, the Palestinian Ministry of Health reports Israeli attacks killed 50 people and wounded more than 150 others over the past 24 hours. Among the dead are 3 Palestinians who were killed when an Israeli drone struck a food distribution center in central Gaza. On Wednesday, Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir claimed during a visit to the U.S. that top Republican lawmakers support the policy of bombing food and humanitarian aid depots in Gaza. After he was feted at a dinner in his honor Tuesday evening at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, Ben-Gvir wrote of the Republicans, quote, "They express support for my very clear position on how to act in Gaza and that the food and aid depots should be bombed in order to create military and political pressure to bring our hostages home safely," Ben-Gvir wrote in remarks translated from Hebrew. Separately, Ben-Gvir was confronted by student protesters and others on Wednesday after attending an event near Yale University. This all comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu returned to a Tel Aviv courtroom this week to give testimony as he faces 3 separate corruption cases. Netanyahu is charged with fraud, breach of trust, and accepting bribes. Authorities in Indian-administered Kashmir say they've identified 3 suspects in Tuesday's deadly assault on tourists in the resort town of Pahalgam, which killed 26 people and injured more than a dozen others, most of them Indian nationals. 2 of the 3 suspects are Pakistanis. In the wake of the attack, India closed its main border with Pakistan and canceled visas for Pakistani visitors, ordering them to leave India within 48 hours. India also canceled a landmark water treaty with Pakistan and summoned Pakistan's top diplomat to New Delhi amidst growing tensions between the nuclear-armed neighbors. Overnight, Russian missile attacks killed at least 8 people in Kyiv in Russia's deadliest strikes on Ukraine's capital since last summer. Dozens of others were wounded. The attack came as the Trump administration's been threatening to withdraw from peace talks. On Wednesday, Trump demanded Kyiv accept a plan that would allow Russia to maintain territory it's gained during its 3-year-long invasion of Ukraine and barring NATO membership for Kyiv. The plan has been rejected by President Volodymyr Zelensky. The federal judge overseeing the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland father who was sent to a prison in El Salvador after an administrative error, granted the Trump administration an additional week to share what steps it's taking to ensure his return. Meanwhile, Abrego Garcia's wife had to be moved to a safe house after the Department of Homeland Security posted her address online, sharing a photo of a 2021 protective order that featured her home address. Federal immigration agents in Florida have opened Operation Tidal Wave, a first-of-its-kind coordinated effort with state police that's seeking to arrest 800 undocumented immigrants this week. Some 230 Florida law enforcement agencies have signed on to an initiative that allows ICE to deputize officers to act as immigration agents. In Vermont, agents with U.S. Customs and Border Protection raided the state's largest dairy farm on Monday, arresting 8 immigrant workers who've since been jailed at the Northwest State Correctional Facility. It's the largest immigration enforcement action in Vermont's recent history. The Republican Governor Phil Scott responded to the raid by calling on Congress to pass comprehensive immigration reform, writing in a statement, quote, "Migrant workers are an essential part of our communities. They are our neighbors and friends, have kids in our schools, shop at our businesses, and play an important role in our economy and workforce," Governor Scott said. In Southern California, the Department of Homeland Security says its agents arrested 10 people at a raid on day laborers gathered outside a Home Depot store in Pomona Tuesday morning. This comes as advocates are raising alarm over the targeting of Southeast Asian immigrants in Los Angeles and Orange County. In the months since Trump returned to office, ICE has detained a growing number of Cambodian, Laotian, and Vietnamese immigrants, even though their deportation orders had been placed on indefinite hold, sometimes for several decades. Here in New York, immigrant delivery workers rallied outside the headquarters of DoorDash Wednesday to demand the food delivery app cease its predatory labor practices, including wage theft. The protest was organized by Los Deliveristas Unidas. This is Santos Suk, a 25-year-old delivery worker who's owed nearly $2,000 in wages by DoorDash dating back to 2022.
It's not fair that they steal our wages. We want to work. We have families in our home countries, and our wages help support our families. We are here to demand justice from DoorDash. They are multimillionaires, and it's unacceptable that they owe us money. We face many risks. People think our work is easy. It's not. We risk our lives in the snow, in the rain, in the heat, and traffic. My message to my fellow immigrants is, do not be afraid. We have to keep going. We are here to fight.
Earlier this year, DoorDash was ordered to pay nearly $17 million for unlawfully using customer tips to subsidize the wages of its delivery workers. A dozen states, including New York and Oregon, have sued President Trump over his, quote, arbitrary imposed tariffs on Wednesday, arguing such decisions must be made by Congress. This comes a week after California launched its own tariff lawsuit. On Wednesday, President Trump suggested he could reimpose what he called reciprocal tariffs on some countries in 2 to 3 weeks if they fail to make a deal with him soon. Share prices of President Trump's meme coins surged by over 50% Wednesday after the cryptocurrency's website announced its top 220 investors would be invited to attend a private gala dinner hosted by Trump. The promotion also offers a, quote, ultra-exclusive VIP reception with the president and a White House tour for the top 25 Trump meme coin investors. The anti-corruption group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, known as CREW, called the promotion, quote, one of the most blatant and appalling instances of selling access to the presidency we've ever seen, unquote. The European Union fined Apple and Meta $800 million for violating the Digital Markets Act, a new law designed to prevent anti-competitive practices by big tech. Meta is accused of forcing users to either pay for Facebook and Instagram subscriptions or to make their personal data available to advertisers. Trump has threatened to retaliate against European regulations on U.S. tech companies. Prosecutors and defense attorneys made opening statements Wednesday in a retrial of Harvey Weinstein on rape charges. The disgraced movie mogul was convicted of rape in 2020, but that landmark ruling was later overturned due to a judge's error. This time around, the case will be heard by a majority female jury. This trial will also feature a newly added allegation by former model Kaya Sokola, who accuses Weinstein of forcing oral sex on her in 2006. Sokola's attorney spoke to reporters after Wednesday's opening arguments here in New York.
The Me Too movement is alive and well. There's been incredible changes in legislation surrounding sexual assault. I think as a society, we are starting to have a better collective understanding about the trauma that sexual assault survivors have faced. And we are able to differentiate these rape myths and the victim blaming, which is a tactic that Weinstein's lawyers have used in this trial. In media news, the long-standing executive producer of CBS's 60 Minutes has quit. Bill Owens wrote in a memo to his staff, quote, "It has become clear that I would not be allowed to run the show as I have always run it, to make independent decisions based on what was right for 60 Minutes, right for the audience," he said. Trump is suing CBS for $20 billion over a segment last year he said was edited to be favorable to Kamala Harris. It was an interview with her they edited down. In January, the New York Times reported CBS's parent company, Paramount, could reach a settlement with Trump in that case. Trump has also called for CBS to lose its broadcasting license after airing pieces on Ukraine and Greenland he disagreed with. Meanwhile, a planned $8 billion merger between Paramount and Skydance Media is currently awaiting FCC approval. Skydance's CEO, David Ellison, is the son of billionaire Larry Ellison, co-founder of Oracle and a close Trump ally. In Michigan, FBI agents and local police raided the homes of University of Michigan Palestinian rights activists in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, and Canton on Wednesday. The targets of the raids participated in campus anti-war protests. Attorney General Dana Nessel claims they're part of a vandalism investigation. Rights groups condemned the raids, with the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, asserting, quote, peaceful dissent
is not a crime, unquote. In California, a group of students at Occidental College are entering their 4th day of a hunger strike to demand Occidental divest from companies tied to Israel's slaughter in Gaza, protect free speech on campus, and shield students from attacks by ICE and the LAPD. These are some of the striking students speaking Wednesday.
Today marks day 3 of our hunger strike and day 564 of Israel's most recent intensification of the 77-year genocide against the Palestinian people. Since March, Israel has been enforcing a man-made blockade and creating a famine.
Occidental College is complicit in this ongoing genocide, and we as the students are committed to holding the administration accountable to being on the right side of history.
In more higher education news, colleges belonging to what's known as the Big Ten Alliance are establishing a mutual defense compact to fight back against Trump's escalating legal, financial, and political attacks on universities. Those who already voted to sign on to the pact include Rutgers and University of Michigan. The Washington Post reports the Trump administration is preparing to remove federal protections for at least 6 national monuments spanning millions of acres of land across Arizona, California, New Mexico, and Utah. This comes as the Interior Department is moving to fast-track approvals for coal, gas, oil, and mineral projects on public lands and waters, reducing the typical length of an environmental review to just 14 or 28 weeks, down from 1 to 2 years. The Trump administration is justifying the change by its declaration of a so-called energy emergency. Environmental groups have vowed to sue to block the move. A new report by the American Lung Association finds nearly half of people in the U.S. are breathing in dangerous levels of air pollutants. Scientists say larger and more frequent wildfires triggered by the climate crisis have contributed to the nation's worsening air quality crisis. And in more environmental news, the worst ever recorded event of coral bleaching has spread to 84% of the world's reefs. The bleaching, brought about by global heating, seriously threatens oceanic biodiversity and could lead to the death of vital underwater ecosystems. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Nermeen Sheikh. Welcome to our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.